I mean, if Uganda kicked them out, folks, welcome back to The Narrative with me, your host, Vrilliam, the host with the most, and the most is Zot. Folks, lots of big conversations happening on X today, specifically surrounding our new friends.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy.
What do I mean by that, our new friends? Well, I'll tell you, but first, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that. I mean, come on. We know what to do here. Let's get into the conversation. Now, I wanted to take a look at this tweet right here. It's been going around, lots of views. This is very, very emblematic of a problem that we're seeing right now, really all across the Anglosphere. Now, it's a screenshot from a reel from one Tapish Shares. I checked into Tapish Shares' account. It's exactly what you would expect. I suppose he is an Indian-born man who has now moved to Canada, who just talks about how he moved to Canada and all of the awesome stuff he gets in Canada. Now, the post here reads, "Things I had to unlearn as an Indian in Canada." First off, I thought the West, we're just a economic zone. What do you mean unlearn? I thought it's for everybody. Everybody fits in here, right? Where's this coming from? I don't understand. He's saying need to unlearn something. What do you mean? I thought the West was for everyone. I thought all cultures are welcome here. So what could be so different about him? Well, he divulges. Oh God. The post reads as follows. 5 things I had to unlearn as an Indian in Canada. Number 1, being loud does not mean being confident. Here, confidence shows up as calm, clarity, and control, not volume. For example, back home, politicians or even some people in general walking the streets shout, command, and dominate space to look powerful. Yeah, that doesn't sound too good, man. Number 2, rules actually mean something, even when no one's watching. Cars wait till the signal turns green, even on empty roads. Pedestrians don't cross early. Oh, integrity isn't situational here. Number 3, respect is given by default, not earned through status. Your age, job title, or background doesn't decide your worth. Everyone starts with respect. 4, pushing ahead does not equal being smart. No cutting lines, no rushing people. Following the process is seen as intelligence, not weakness. Number 5, jugaad everywhere is not acceptable. No bending rules, no managing systems. Break trust once and it'll cost you fast. Now, people are posting this saying, that's a little weird. It's just, it's funny because they'll post stuff like this and then never ask, like, why is India like that? All the things listed here are, I'd say, things that make the West and make the Anglosphere specifically a great place to be. We do care about rules. We do care about order. We care about these things. We, give everyone respect. I mean, these are great features of our society. But it's kind of it's a misunderstanding from our part to think that that's standard, like across the world. And so what this post is showcasing is that, when you leave the West, when you leave, honestly, specifically the Anglosphere, when you leave like America, Canada, fucking New Zealand, and Australia, when you leave those countries, a lot of the stuff that we think is just kind of essential to society, that we think is incredibly normal, goes out the window and is not a part of their culture and society. And so once you understand that, you kind of can begin to understand why India looks like that. A great example here that he talks about is something called jugaad. Now, what is jugaad? I actually went pretty popular on Instagram and Twitter with a clip that I did about jugaad. To give you a bit of a refresher for those who haven't seen, jugaad is a Hindi word. It literally means cleverness or quickness. Basically means to finesse the system. Now, you have to understand when it comes to their view of systems and rules. India, up until 1947, they had not been sovereign for like 1,000 years. Like these are not a people who had sovereignty. And so rules were being enforced upon them from outside. And so it's seen as a virtue to finesse the system. I mean that, like it's seen as a virtue to break the rules in a way that benefits you. Whether it's some kind of hack or some kind of scam, this is seen as a virtuous thing. A great example is this image that went around about a story from British India. During British India, if you know anything about the Indian subcontinent, a lot of wild animals. And so the British government, in order to decrease the population of local venomous cobras, put a bounty on them, basically. They said, if you bring us X amount of dead cobras that you hunted and killed, we'll give you X amount of dollars. Quickly, what ended up happening was locals started capturing cobras, breeding them, and then would kill them and bring them to the government and saying, oh, look, I hunted these. And eventually, when the British caught on, they ended the program, and then the cobra problem in India, like, tripled because they let all the cobras go. They were no longer profitable. This is a great example of something called jugaad, where the system was finessed. But one of the reasons why we in the Anglosphere don't have a jugaad is because, as the story tells us, it ends up just making things worse. If you do things right, the right way, once, you don't got to address it again. This is not a concept that is part of their culture. And so all of this is to ask a bigger question about migration and about cultural integration. What is possible and what is not? How identified are we within ourselves, and how do others identify us? A question that starts in the Anglosphere. Now, what is the Anglosphere? I spoke about it before. The Anglosphere actually technically refers to any country that speaks English as a majority language, but when it's used politically, we're mostly talking about Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and America. And of course, Great Britain. We call it that because all of these countries share some similar cultural facets. Granted, America is a little bit different than the rest of the Anglosphere, and I've spoken about this before. See, life in Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, they're very, very similar to life in Great Britain. This is because they're Commonwealth countries. They didn't have like a revolution. They didn't leave the Anglosphere. They didn't leave the sphere of influence of Great Britain. Now, regardless, we still share a bit of a cultural background with one another. See, most of the Anglosphere outside of Great Britain, they're settler countries, meaning that not only do we come from this greater British culture, a very orderly imperial culture, like I said, they're settler cultures. So not only did it have the British order, it has a certain like work ethic to it. It has a certain importance placed on self-reliance to ensure cultural cohesion. I mean, if you look at the origin story of all these countries, we largely all came from the same type of person, a settler. Which, I mean, a settler is like a very hardy, rugged, individualist kind of person. And so this is the cultural canvas of which we have created our countries from. In 2004, U.S. soldiers stationed in Baghdad, Iraq, noticed that local peddlers were selling an interesting product. The Osama bin lighter made waves in the U.S. military. Only a limited amount of these were purchased with no tracking number by U.S. soldiers in Iraq, never to be seen again, until one brave man decided to bring back this iconic product. Available for pre-order now, Lord Miles has brought back the Osama bin lighter. Now sold in a perfect stainless steel metal casing, USB-C recharging, and of course, an included soundtrack. Folks, be sure to check the link in the description of this video to get yours today. Folks, time is running out on these. Only a limited number will be created, so be sure to pre-order yours today and secure yourself a new piece of classic history with the iconic Osama bin lighter. Now let's get back to the video. In this multicultural experiment that's kind of been placed upon us, we end up bringing in cultures that don't have that. See, I've always talked about the idea that in America specifically, we do have a certain level of flexibility for other cultures. And I think even the most harsh of ideologues would be inclined to agree if faced with the actual premise. I mean, somebody from, say, the more urban or more developed areas of Mexico, maybe somewhere in East Asia, they'd have a better time integrating into our culture than, say, somebody from India. And this is why. India is a collectivist culture. It's a clannish culture. Something that needs to be noted. And culture, you can't really unlearn it. Because there's the argument that, okay, well, maybe these are how the immigrants are, but once they have kids and they're raised in the culture, well, they'll be different. Except that's not really the case. I mean, some things about culture are innate. Culture spawns from people. But even then, even if that were true, these people don't assimilate. They form ethnic enclaves. And in forming ethnic enclaves, they stay solidified within their culture. And so all those negative aspects that we spoke about, they don't leave. If anything, they're just further bolstered. I spoke about this a bunch in my Indian H-1B Mafia video, where what we're seeing is the Indian cultural structure of Izzat being put into our corporations, which is causing them to fall. Izzat, for those who are not aware, Izzat is the concept of honor. It's an honor system within their society. Not one that's based on how honorable one can be, but based upon how much one can get. Remember jugaad that we just spoke about? It's kind of like that if they're able to finesse the system, that raises their Izzat. If they get finessed by the system, that lowers it. And this is why things kind of like are the way they are over there. See, in America, if something is broken, we have departments, we have offices that fix that, garbage treatment, police, whatever. We have public systems for this. It's seen as the job of those people to go and fix those problems. And that's what it is. In the Izzat culture, it's seen as bad that these problems even exist. If you were to go to, I don't know, whoever is in charge of sewage there and say, hey, the drain is clogged. Hey, the sewer system is clogged. Well, that's an offense on the person's honor. The fact that the problem even exists in the first place, that implies incompetence. And that's a no-go. You can't have that. And so Indian officials will just like straight up deny that there's a problem. You see how that can very quickly multiply into many, many different issues, which creates the conditions that they live in. This concept is very foreign to us, but it's quickly being introduced as we introduce more of them and they move to ethnic enclaves. And it doesn't help that we in America, like our immigration system is wildly bureaucratic. I don't think I have to tell you that. I mean, literally, if you ever met someone who's ever dealt with our immigration system, wherever they may be from, it's incredibly bureaucratic. Most of our government systems are. And this is where that kind of culture thrives, is within bureaucracy, structures that they can game. A great example comes from this clip that's been going around. A clip from the podcast Diary of a CEO, which that sounds familiar. Diary of a CEO. I don't feel like I've heard that before, right? Let's take a look at the clip.
80% of all the motels in the US are under Patel ownership.
You use this example of the Patels. What is that story?
Idi Amin came to power in Uganda in the 1970s, and he said Africa is for Africans. So what he did is he threw all the Patels out.
It was a family?
It's an ethnic group
Okay.
in India. The US took them in, and when they landed in the US, they basically really didn't have any skills that would allow them to get good jobs, white-collar jobs in the US. What a few of them started to do was they realized that if they bought a motel, a small 10 or 20-room motel, the family could live in one or two of the rooms, and they could use the money they got out and get a bank loan and run the motel. Now, motels are very labor-intensive businesses. So what they did is when a Patel took over a motel, they fired all the staff. And the family took over all the jobs, the cleaning and front desk and everything else, right? And the Patels are vegetarians, and they live a very simple life. So when a Patel took over a motel in an area, what they were able to do is they were able to undercut the prices of all the other motels in the area because they have no labor. They have no payroll. They have no workers' comp, none of those things. And so if everyone else is charging $25 a night, they're charging, $19 a night. So the occupancy was higher than everyone else. And they saved their money. And then what they would do is buy the next motel, send the nephew to run it, and then buy the next motel.
Let me just first off say, dude, if Uganda kicked them out, Uganda, out of all the places in the world that can spare some talent, that can kick some people out, I don't think Uganda's one of them. I don't think Uganda is in much of a hurry to kick out people with any skills and talents that would better their society. So kind of says something about them as a people. This clip makes a great point. And I actually made a clip before on my Instagram about the whole Patel motel. Something he doesn't cover here, and I think there's a reason why, judging by his accent, he doesn't comment on the deeply, deeply criminal origins of the Patel motel. See, one of the things that also bolstered the Patel motel money was the fact that they turned a blind eye to crime. The Patel motel, that was like a staple of it, is that they didn't ask any questions. And so prostitution, all these things ran rampant in these motels. And this is what I mean. This is the Azat. This is the Jugaad. It doesn't matter that they're creating terrible conditions, that they're making life objectively worse for everybody else because they're enabling crime to occur or they're like enabling terrible conditions. It doesn't matter because in the end, they made their money and they get to walk away. And this is part of their cultural identity. Do you see how that might not be able to be like, you see how that's not going to fit into our society in any way? It also doesn't help that they have a similar attitude to us as the collective West as they do their former rulers, whether it be the British, the Mughals, etc., etc. They see us as like a foreign governance that doesn't actually mean anything to them. So our laws don't really mean much. There isn't an effect where we Americanize, we Westernize them. They Indianize us. Now you may be saying to yourself, okay, well, that sounds concerning, to say the least, but surely this is an isolated problem. I mean, take a look at the numbers, right? There's not a lot of Indians here. I mean, Canada has a lot. Canada has a lot of Desi people, and so does Australia and New Zealand, but not America, right? Good old US of A, we don't really have a bunch. But what if I told you that's very quickly changing? In order to understand migration patterns from the Indian subcontinent, you have to understand one Narendra Modi. Narendra Modi, current Prime Minister of India, a controversial figure to say the least. And if you joined my stream, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m., I recently did a whole special where I talked specifically about Indian politics, and we covered very deeply the origins of the BJP, the party that Narendra Modi comes from. Now, they're a nationalist party, specifically a Hindu nationalist party. For them, demographics and population is key. It is the center point of their politics. And yet, you're seeing all across the West, they are making trade deals that specifically include increases to migration, saying, oh, okay, well, we'll trade with you. We'll let you do business here if you let in X amount of people, if you increase the cap to X percentage. And it begs the question, well, why would a nationalist party want people to leave? If you're a nationalist party, you'd want people to stay. I mean, historically, when nationalist parties win elections, they close the border in terms of exports of people. This is to avoid effects like brain drain. But it's the opposite. They're actively trying to open their border and trying to open our borders to them. Why is that? Well, this is called diaspora politics. Little math here for you. The top 5 countries receiving remittances is as follows. Pakistan receives 27 billion. The Philippines, 39 billion. China, 50 billion. Mexico at 66 billion. And the number 1 spot, India at $120 billion. Literally twice as much as second place. That means that like a notable part of their economy, especially in terms of imports, is literally just immigrants sending money back to India and then converting it into rupees. That's $120 billion being pulled out of our economy, converted into their local currency, and then it's just gone with the wind. It's not being recirculated into our economy. Do you see the fucking problem there? It is quite literally leeching, and their politicians are enabling this. They want this because they're enriching themselves off of this. And so this is why a nationalist party would be so pro sending their people out of the nation, is because they can enrich themselves off of it. Now, with all that being said, you may be asking yourself, okay, well, that's obviously not good. It's obviously a problem, but why would our government sign these deals? Surely there must be some kind of benefit to these deals. I mean, there's got to be a reason why all of our governments en masse are signing these deals. Well, there certainly is a reason. It's not a good one. When I was a kid, everything was made in China. It honestly became like a joke in people's households. Everything was made in China. It became synonymous with saying that something was cheap or plastic. But that's not really the case anymore. This is because ever since the leadership of Xi Jinping in China, something that I also covered on stream, China has been changing their economy. They have drastically scaled back. how much they are allowing the foreign world, i.e. the West, to utilize their factory labor and their productive capacity. And so this has led to some issues for our financier class. When we started sending all the jobs to China, something that we shouldn't have done, let me note that, we ended up turning our economy from a productive one into a speculative one, meaning that the biggest earners of our society, they work in finance, they don't work in production. I mean, someone like a Henry Ford could no longer exist in American society. Now, the richest of us, they are basically like gamblers. They work in speculative finance. It's like not real. It's just pushing money around. The only reason that can be is because there is this foundational structure of cheap foreign labor. If China pulls out, well, that foundation goes away. And so that means they have two options. They either bring production back to our country, which would be, let me note, objectively positive for us, or they find a new cheap factory. They find a new factory country. And wouldn't you know it, India has recently built a lot of factories. India is attempting to replace China as the world's factory. And the financial elite of our country have caught on to this very quickly, and they are beginning to invest. And so this is why you're seeing all of these deals. They're saying, okay, if you let us use your factories to produce cheap bullshit, like cheap polyester Fortnite hoodies, then we'll accept X amount of migrants into our economy. Do you see how that quickly becomes a zero-sum game, only benefits the wealthiest of our society? The wealthiest, who, might I add, are internationalists, so it's not like they possess a loyalty to America. I mean, most of them aren't even American. Most of them possess dual citizenship to Israel. Hey, I'm just saying. And so the result is everything we have gets degraded. It's not just our common cultural life that gets degraded, like we spoke about earlier. It's literally the quality of everything that we have. And it's only bolstered by something like H-1B, which I've spoken about before in my H-1B Mafia video, which you should definitely check out. Basically, the H-1B visa program, heavily used by India, something like 70% of all H-1B visas are going to India. They're being requested, written, and approved by other Indians living in America. And then these H-1B people are brought in and basically treated as like slaves. It's just H-1B slaves who can write like very basic Python code or just straight up lie on their credentials. See, because for them, innovation, that doesn't matter. Employee quality, product quality, that doesn't matter. What matters is numbers on a spreadsheet. And the more employees, the more money being circulated within a company, the more it's valued. So for them, it doesn't matter if literally everybody at Microsoft doesn't know how to code. It doesn't matter if everyone at Microsoft can't speak English. It just matters the sheer number and volume of people when looked at from the financial perspective. This is the main profit driver in our country right now, is speculative credit finance, things like usury, the manipulation of inflation. This is the biggest of money in our society. And this is how someone like Epstein, who's honestly, I think the poster boy for this class of people, this group of people, that's how he was making his money, like up until his death, was largely from shorting shipping futures. That was him making a fortune. So do you understand how, if that's how money is being made in our economy, if that's how the richest are making money, you see how they won't actually give a fuck about the quality of products and who's making them and who's working on this shit? Like, do you see why our internet is basically held together right now with duct tape, chewed gum, and Indian biomass? This is why, is because the actual quality of things, it doesn't matter. All of this is to say, I'm not a total American remigration guy. I never have been. I've spoken about this before, that I don't think it's wise, to take the European approach for countries which are vastly different from us and say, oh, well, we should follow their example and say we should deport everybody. We should remigrate and denaturalize everybody. I don't agree with that, largely due to the fact that it's fucking impossible, but also because I think our society, we're fundamentally different from the rest of the world. And that's noted by us. We are an artifice in that sense. We are a state that comes from a cultural heritage, from an ethnic heritage, of course, but also there is a level of philosophical and ideological insight put into our Constitution. And so there are cultures that work well with us and have historically worked well with us. But this one, this culture, fuck no. I think we'd have a much easier time if we targeted the concept of deportation and remigration, the concept of migratory bans, if they were targeted at specific populations which are causing a decay in our quality of life. This is the prime peak one. There's literally no better example of this, and I think literally everyone could agree with me. Even they themselves agree with me. If you go talk to one, like they're the first to be like, yeah, dude, our culture like kind of fucking sucks, and yet they never let it go. All of this is to say simply, we're fucking cooked, folks. In the game of geopolitics, well, I guess we need to get back our Izzat. But folks, that is going to do it for us today on this episode of The Narrative. I hope you enjoyed. Crazy times, man. Let's hope that we can bring about some change. But if you like this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I mean, all that. And folks, as I always say, God bless you and God bless America.